honoured to have you on, bro. It's given me a lot of energy, and also the work that you do, bro. I mean, I should be saying this in the fucking podcast, but...
Are we not on the podcast?
No. Oh, we are. Oh, did you get all that? Oh, okay. Yeah, so we are. There you go, bro.
Meant to be.
Yeah. So 2025, bro, first podcast. And yeah, well, I mean, now that I know that we're recording, I mean, it's good, bro. Like what you do in the community, man, is giving me energy to go, now I'm going to keep fucking pushing this forward as well. So, yeah, thanks, brother.
Yeah, of course, bro. I think we all have our moments where like it gets hard and we push and we push and we push. And like the goal that we want and what we're trying to create is there, and it's like the energy that we're using, and sometimes we'll have a setback, or I don't know if it's something that's internal or us or if it's something external, but most often than not, it's something that's going on and playing out in our internal world that's just causing us to look and reflect back on what's happening around us, and especially things that we love and put passionate energy towards. And I find that in myself. I found that in myself last year. And we have so much drive and want, especially for men that are just trying to change their lives and they're starting their journeys. It's like we spend so much time unconsciously living this life just on, automatic. And then we start to flip that switch and we start looking at what does life look like now? And then it becomes complicated because we're paying attention and everything has meaning and value, and we don't want to fuck things up, and we're trying to stay floating towards the shiny light.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, fuck. Yeah, I relate to it so much, especially after the gala last year. Like, that just cooked me. It was a year of me pushing myself, not having a job, having no money, then obviously, with the gala and everything, and also just running this podcast, bro. It takes so much in. It's all for love. A lot of what we do is for love and passion and what we believe in, because we want it better for other people out there, and sometimes when you're going through a hard time yourself, mentally battling stuff, it's like finding that energy or that strength to keep going, and sometimes you just want to fucking give it up, man. But I guess that's what I'm saying to you, bro. Like, I mean, just even being in here today, first time I've been in here since the last podcast last year, and having gone through that journey over the new year, now to come back into this space and feel, this is where it's at, man. This is where I need to be, and this is where flow comes involved with, always feel like I'm in flow, man. Things just fall into place. And but anyway, bro, I was going to open up this podcast with a text message you sent, bro, because I think this really sums up what the podcast is going to be about, man. Former Outlaw motorcycle member, now leading the industry for men's mental health. How he's helping men of the community heal and create change. That sums you up pretty good, brother.
Yeah, it's so weird, bro. And I'm so, hearing those words, even former motorcycle club member or former criminal or former anything, I think I held so much fucking shame around who I was, even after changing the direction of my life. I kind of tried to avoid it, and it's tattooed on me. And then I've got reminders of where I've left the club. I've got blacked out tattoos and covered up tattoos fucking everywhere. But I think a part of me, to keep myself safe, I blocked myself off from that part of life. And I was like, let's focus from here forward. And then, you go to workshops or community things, and, or you meet people, especially during that transition period. I left where I lived in Rockingham, and I moved out and moved to Fremantle, so I didn't have to face or see anyone that I used to associate with or know or anything for the 30 years that I grew up in Rockingham. I was like, fuck this, clean slate, move out. And a part of me sort of like chasing a new life also blocked off a part of me that, is still a huge part of my journey. And it's like sometimes you have to go back to navigate why. And there was so much shame under that. I think it was just like a period of life where everything went so fucking fast, from when I had the clothing brand and the motorcycle, dirt bike fucking scene happening, and then sort of evolving into street crew and a clothing brand, and then just fucking, before we know it, we're in one of the biggest motorcycle clubs, and there's 20 of my best friends, and everywhere around the state was just fucking blowing up so fast. And when it starts to slow down and you reflect on that life, it's like, fuck, there was 5 years of my life that went so fucking fast. And also, I would say a period of time where I just sort of got to block off everything that I was experiencing as a young man, and it just became fucking high stimulant, fucking fast going, and it's
So,
weird.
like, I mean, you talk about guilt and shame, bro. I mean, like a lot of questions come up when I want to talk about your past. I guess, like, I mean, you mentioned guilt and shame, bro. I mean, like, because I'm assuming, like a lot of people that I have on here that come from the same sort of backgrounds and things, man, it's like, we can't hold ourselves accountable for our past, you know what I mean? Because we all get the chance to move on and change our ways and things like that. But, you know, there is always that guilt and shame that of things that you've done. So what does that look like, bro? Like when you're talking about that, man?
So I think something that's important to, and I especially want to speak into this in my story, like so many people that come on podcasts or tell their story and talk about how they changed their life. It's like, oh, it's because of the club and I was a criminal and it was the drugs and it was the people. And it's like, everything that you did was a choice, right? Like you had a choice to be there, stay there. You had the choices to commit the crimes. It's not about putting blame on it. It's like acknowledging. And I think what's important to talk about, especially because we work with these men now, right? Former criminals, current gang members, current motorcycle club members, and former motorcycle club members, and your everyday guys. One thing that I learned, especially about myself, is like, how did I get here? Like, what drew me to want to be in this space? And that sort of concept started expanding my view of the community. It's like, why is there separation in the community? What is the expansion of how men are navigating life and their emotional and mental health look like, and where's the worser part of things and where's the lighter side of things? And then you realize, like, the lighter side of life where you've got the businessman and he's got the shiny fucking glow stick fucking car and everything looks great, and then you've also got the guy that's suffering with drug addiction and he's abusive to women, and we're just looking at a very high end of the spectrum. Both men are usually suffering at the same. One just has more masks on than the other.
Yeah.
This guy just doesn't really care anymore. He's okay being where he is because that's how society's like programmed him to be. And this person is like, hey, I've got to have my fucking shit together. I've got to have my fucking family looking like this. Everything's got to look crystal clear. But behind closed doors, a lot of men are navigating things just on slightly different levels. And when I started to understand that concept, I was like, well, why is there men like us that are going against? And it's like, you know, I look at my childhood, but also I met so many fucking people in the club, you know, like really, really fucking bad people and really fucking beautiful men. And a lot of men that they have in common, and I won't say this about every single person that I met on my journey. I was speaking into only a handful of motorcycle clubs, people that I know and people and members that I've been with, is that often a lot of them have had such bad childhoods. And as they've started to navigate how they've felt, especially most of them in their early teenage years, they've found themselves in addiction or crime or petty crime, and they end up through the system, right? And you know, as everyone knows, a lot of the people that are going into the prison systems, if they've got a bit of naff about them, and they're going to be looked at potential prospects. And it was no different to us as we were coming up in Rockingham, you know, as the chapters were growing. You know, you got street crews. If I was the president back then, I would have been looking at these people like, these are fucking primo bros to get in here, you know. Eventually that's what I was doing, was scouting and looking for guys to bring in. But also seeing, you know, how people came through the system. I think it's interesting, like the police's view on how to change it. And I feel like, yes, it did work, and no, it didn't. And it's like, I'm not in both places, so I can't make judgment on what's right or wrong from the police. I only speak from my personal experience and what it was like to feel immense fucking scrutiny from like the TRG and that concert, you know, having your houses smashed to bits, your parents and your fucking people that you love being told all these stories, whether they're right or wrong.
Yeah.
They intentionally do it to cause conflict and disruption, and the aim is to get us to leave. And part of why I left further down the line was because of that.
So just on that note, bro, like, because I know that back in New Zealand, the mongrel mob, who have a notorious fucking, like even growing up with them and my experiences with them growing up in New Zealand, man, they're just fucking, they can be mongrels, man, you know, like they're hard, you know. And but I guess what we're seeing, well, what I'm seeing a lot now is that a lot of these, it's becoming more of a whānau, more of a family, and they are trying to integrate, because there's a reason why these kids that come from bad, hard backgrounds, as kids that they're reaching out into motorcycle clubs or street gangs for that, because there is that connection. There is that understanding of we get each other. We've got the same outlooks on life and, and a lot of that, like the brotherhood. And there is a lot of, there is a lot of loyalty, and you feel like that, a bit of love, I guess, as well, man, that you're not necessarily receiving through your parents or the way you've been brought. But is there a way through gangs that can still have a positive influence, like in terms of like swinging it? Not.
It's a big question, bro. And fuck, this podcast is just opening rabbit holes everywhere, and I don't know where to try to stay on track with it, because it's such a big fucking subject about youth and crime and where people end up and prevention and fucking. But I would say no. This is a direct answer, and that's only talking about motorcycle clubs in Western Australia. I don't think that there is a path for young men to go through there and come out healthily.
Nah.
What I would say is, like, why are they joining in the first place? You can ask a question to me, why did you join? And it got to do with so many fucking things, right? And it's more about prevention. All these people that struggled in young ages, like we're talking about now the work that we do with the men. Like, if any of that stuff was around, if there was more things for people that were struggling to navigate, that were coming through high school and into their early teens, like so many men are struggling with self-image. Like, where do they fit in this fucking world? And a big part of why people like magnify towards each other is like, he seems like someone who's going to get me, or he's like me, whether that's a bad kid, good kid, or someone that, it's like, I feel seen now and heard by this person. And I remember when I joined the motorcycle club after the non-period and all my bros were in there, I was just like, fuck, this is the best time of my fucking life. It was all the other shit that impacted it. But if all that stuff never happened, I might not have ever left the club.
Yeah.
Because I fucking loved it, bro. That was like a way of living. It wasn't what I would say is healthy, masculine-wise. Like, would I say that that's a healthy place? But it's also the environment that you create. Not every chapter's like that. Not every club's like that. Our chapter was different to the other 5 that were in Western Australia. And each one has their own different fucking look and feel. It's the people that create it and the environment that changes it. But in saying that, bro, like, is there a pathway in and out of clubs? I don't know. I mean, you hear about a lot of stuff in prisons, but it's like, and I can only say as much as I can say on this podcast. It's not, once you're in it, it's not exactly the easiest fucking way out.
Well, that's why I want to ask, like, how did you navigate out of it, bro? How did that look like, man?
Well, I wouldn't speak into it on this podcast, just for privacy reasons.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, then how was it that, how did you navigate out of it on a personal, I guess an ego or trying not to look back at, because you said it was fucking good, man. It was a good time of your life, and it's hard to get out of it. But I know, well, put it this way, like even with business for me, man, I ran quite a successful business, and for me, even now, and that's way back then, and I've done all this work and dropped my ego, but I'm still sometimes always find myself looking back going, fuck, I messed up there, or I could have done this, or I can do that again. And it always feels like we've got these dangling carrots around you to go back to an old way of business. But how is the process been in the way of like staying forward on your journey?
Oh, bro, I think firstly, man, like it was probably the hardest thing I had to do in my life. Mainly because my brother was involved and some of my best friends were involved. And it's like, what the process of the outcome is, and trying to navigate all that. And there was still a lot of people that we loved that we didn't want to hurt. And there was the fucking patch overs happening. There was fucking a lot of navigation where, wrong decisions would cause a lot of bigger flow-on effects. So this is what I could say, yeah. But when we finally got out and everything started to quieten down and the police presence stopped and we navigated some of the stuff in our local areas and things started to just sort of calm down. I think for me, bro, the biggest thing that I was craving so much to find who I was, because I was so lost as a person and I could never put that on a club. That was my journey, and I was like, fuck, I can't handle this anymore. Like, it's becoming too much. And as I left, it was like, firstly, I needed to have an ego death, because I lived with my head up my ass and I did not give a fuck about people, women, fucking anything. I didn't have a lot of respect. I learned to live a certain way and I let that glorify me because people were scared of me and people would respect me for it. And then I hated myself for that. So when I talk about shame, there's a big part of it. Then it's like I made myself feel and want love from others based off treating them like shit. Making people, I thought, I'm the fucking man. I was like, this person doesn't like you or love you. He's just scared of you and he wants to be your friend so that he's got no dramas. How I felt so lost and alone after that. And I was like, who actually am I? And that's when my journey sort of started. And I was like, fuck, I've got no idea, man. I've been, before the club, like I'd had such a rough childhood. And then I went into the club and all that shit happened. And then I had the fucking first 5-year liquor ban. So from fucking 20 to when I was nearly 30, I never went to any licensed venues or restaurants or anything. I was fucking getting harassed by TRG. So I was just like so fucking angry at the world. I was angry at my club, angry at the police, angry at fucking everything. And I felt like, fuck, I didn't know where to start. I just knew for me, like we spoke into before, I moved. I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. I've got to start fresh. I've got to figure out what I want. What does that look like? And even while we're saying this, like the emotion of what it felt like when I was in Fremantle to walk around and no one knew who I was. And I was like, finally I can try figure out who that is. So I don't have to try impress anyone, do anything, talk to anyone. So I remember parts of what I used to hate was story time. It was like, fuck, it would kill me. People want to talk about so many different things. And I was just like, man, I just want to have a beer and like talk to a person and just like, what does that feel like again? Because it had been so long for me that I hadn't done that. And it's like, even in a man that's trying to change his life, whatever your story looked like, it's just so hard trying to leave everything that you were, try to create something that you have no idea what it fucking looks like because it's so scary.
And trusting in it too, bro. Trusting in this new identity, man. Like, because, I mean, I relate to you in so many ways, bro. Like, just, trusting in this new identity that this is the way, Like, I mean, how did you navigate that, bro? I mean, like, because it's such a powerful position where you came from, bro, to then now finding out who the fuck is Al. Who really is Al?
I still didn't know, bro.
Yeah.
But what I did for 2 years, man, and I was just going out free, man. I was working, focused on myself, but I was loving it, bro. No one knew me and I'd never have the conversation. So I got to sort of recreate myself just as whoever that was based off, other than how I looked. I could dress how I want to, do what I wanted, and just start to talk to people and communicate to people on like more of a human level, not fuck you want to kick off, like that stuff I was so sick of, and I was just like, what does it like feel like to just be like one of the guys that I used to look like? I'm like, fuck, that cunt's carefree. He's just having a laugh and having a beer. And kind of felt like I never did that. I think like my body was always stuck in like survival mode, bro. Like I was always scouting rooms, always checking for things. And you get so used to living like that, even in your own home, whether it be the police or fucking another crew, when you've had beef with someone, you're always thinking about something's going to kick off and fucking, even talking about it now, I remember like I had my PTSD for so fucking long, like wouldn't be able to sleep, or if there was a noise like that in the house, I'd fucking get up because you get so used to that being a potential outcome that it's fucking very hard to disconnect from. So it's like in a language that we understand, it's like I had to learn to become safe again in my body and my fucking
Can you
house.
talk about that?
Yeah.
Because I'm going through that at the moment, bro. PTSD, bro. Like, what are you doing for it, bro? Like, how are you doing it? How are you deregulating your nervous system, bro? Your
So it depends on the complexity of PTSD and what it is, right? Like mine is more so deep in the subconscious, right? And that's why it would always come out in dreams or when I would sleep, because it's where you would fear it the most.
Yeah.
The simplest way to answer that is like, what would safe look like? Because you know what unsafe feels like.
Mm.
And then I would say, what is it that I would need to start navigating towards what safety feels like?
Mm.
Because we get a concept, right? It's like, if you look at it in black and white, it's like, you used to be in the club, that used to be a problem. You're not in the club, so that's not the problem anymore. So time will change. Well, it won't. Because you're still not processing what it felt like. Mm. So I think one of the biggest things that you can have for yourself is like, firstly, is compassion. It's like, hey, what you went through was fucking incredibly fucking scary.
Mm.
Like, who would want to live like that? And then really tap into, like, fucking validate parts of yourself. Because what we would do as men is be like, that was just because of that. And what you're doing is basically invalidating the pain. That's the trauma. The trauma is asking to be heard and seen and be felt. And if we just simply move past that constantly, it's like we got to start by validating the pain, have compassion for what you went through, and starting to learn what that feels. So, fuck, you're right, that was hard.
Mm. So just taking that even a little bit more deeper there. So what are you suggesting? Like sitting still with yourself, having a notepad and pen, and maybe writing what those triggers are coming up, or?
Yeah, well, I think someone who is conscious of their PTSD, that's aware of what it looks like and feels like, 100%. If you go to any sort of therapeutic process, what they're going to want to do is start to dig deeper. They're going to want to witness what it was like in the process of healing trauma, whether it's post-traumatic or whether it's acute trauma or whatever type of trauma it is that you've experienced. It's like you have to be there and witness and be a bystander to that pain and understand what that experience was, find compassion for that person who went through that experience. Then the second part of it is like you need to grieve. You need to feel all of that pain so that you understand, because what we will do, naturally our nervous system, when we feel like those states are up, we'll go into fight or flight or shut down, and whatever it is that your experience was of a PTSD, and your body will lock up. Oh, fuck, way too hard to deal with. Push that fucking down. So then a part of processing is like, okay, let's safely bring that to the surface.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you say, would you advise someone to sit there and journal for it? Well, probably not something like PTSD. I would say something that is really big and deep. It's like you need a space that can hold you.
Mm.
Yeah, because once all that comes up, it's like that starts to feel really unsafe.
I like how you mentioned, because even at my age, man, I'm only just realizing now that I've fucking suffered with PTSD since a fucking kid, you know. And although I got diagnosed with it, you know, many years ago, and this is what sort of helped me navigate onto my journey of healing and things like that as well. I got diagnosed with PTSD and got sent to a guy called David Cockram over here in WA. He's a professor in neuroscience and works for the Defence Force. But I was lucky enough to have him as a psychologist at the time. I think a psychologist, and he explained to me what the fuck's going on, bro. And for the first time in my life, man, I had understanding of like, because I thought everyone feels this. This is normal to be heightened, and but I sort of pushed it aside, man, and continued on, bro, just battling it away, you know, and it's not even until really now where I just done a whole lot of tests and all that for it just recently, bro, like literally about probably 8 weeks ago. Done all these tests, man, and gone seen a psychologist and things like that, right? And she said, man, like you've been suffering with this for a long time. And even through all the work that I've been doing lately, I've just always feeling in this heightened mode. And she explained it all. And so just going back to what you said, to even recognize it, is a job in itself, you know, to.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the biggest things, you know, like we can go in many directions here, but it's like for any man, right? And the one of the biggest problems that men have in the community is a lack of understanding to speaking into their emotional depth, right? We have a very basic language like angry, sad, the shit that we learned in primary school. I want to speak about this, right, because this is so fucking valid. It's like what we're seeing now in the community is a very short and periodical awakening of the community of men, and they're trying to be more curious and find out how they can change, how they're currently feeling and navigating life. And what I think is a good analogy for explaining to a man like what he's trying to do for himself right now. It's like, imagine if you're 5 to 7 years old, right, and you're getting to that space of starting to understand it, and you're talking to your dad, just starting to go to school and stuff, and things have been complex for you as a child. And so imagine your emotions, right? You go on your iPhone, you put on Do Not Disturb, and then you wait until you're 25, 30, 35 years old, and you're like, I'm going to turn that back off. Because that whole period of time, how I was, which was me as a little boy, which was like the most authentic expression of self, I started realizing I wasn't safe in this world. And now I'm starting to fear judgment, what it's like to be seen, because who I am isn't enough. And there's all these little judgmental little cunty kids everywhere, and the teacher's like this and my dad's like that, and I'm viewing and seeing everything from my lens for the first time, and it's like he looks cool and that looks cool, I want to be like that. Every man from that sort of age is like struggling to figure out where he fucking fits in the world. And they do that all the way through up into their relationships until fucking now, bro. And it's like, now they're just like, well, who the fuck actually am I? Because I've been tapped out from who I was since fucking then. And it's not to say that it's every person at 7, but often it's men relate to their teenage years, because it's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be how I was when I was with mum. Who am I? Because now I've just come out of like what was safe, and I'm exploring the world for the first time. And
and just on that, sometimes it's not even the upbringing you have with your parents. Like, I mean, even the schooling curriculum, man, like you're a yes or no person when you sit down and be quiet, and this is when you have lunch, and this is what you wear. I feel like we're you know, and then now we add social media into the mix as well, man.
Yep.
Fuck, bro, you know, and I guess we're like to figure that out, man. Like, yeah, I don't know.
We're going down, fuck.
We're going deep, bro, because I, you know, and this happens a lot, bro. Like, I fucking relate to it, bro. You know, like in so many ways, and sometimes when you are like, I call it awakening, you know, and you're starting to realize, and you're curious about who you are, and you're leaning into uncomfortable areas to find yourself, and you know, like even with the amend, you know, it takes a lot of leaning into something to go and do what we'll go into amend and what you do soon, but just from firsthand experiences, being a part of them, you know, it takes a lot to go into these places because you're finding yourself. But even sometimes the integration of coming out of these, what do you want to call them, like self-help events or whatever you might call them, it's the navigation when you come out of them, and then you're still questioning, like, fuck, is this me? Or fucking,
yeah,
you know, constantly, bro.
Yeah, we're in that period of like I said, you know, it's like, if we always talk about the onion, right, and peel off the onion, there's me leaving the club, then there's me fucking frolicking around for 2 years, not actually doing fuck all, but thought I was actually navigating who the fuck I was.
Yeah.
Where I'm just as broken as I was before, except I'm not wearing a patch. I'm just rolling around the streets pretending to be someone else. I think, like, it's weird, like, you talk about where's step one for a man. We can go into the space of how do we help people in the space of mental health, and also for the work that we do. And it's like, everyone always says, like, well, what's the first thing I should do? Well, first thing, you need a new community. You need somewhere that's going to support you, right? You're not going to do it by yourself. Guarantee you, there's so many of these fucking heroes that are just like, lock in, give the David Goggins mindset. It's like, bro, you will last 6 months and you'll break again. Or what you'll do is you'll unconsciously fucking tap out of all the shit that you should be feeling, focus on just fucking surviving every day, and then you'll now have a new coping mechanism. Because you think you're thriving, you're actually now in a new coping mechanism, because it's like, if I don't do these things, then, yeah. And you see that all the time. But for a man that's genuinely trying to get a deeper understanding of himself, it's like, how does he start to learn, firstly, what he's thinking and feeling, and then be able to relate that to behaviors that he can understand? One thing I've learned with men is it doesn't matter what type of work you're doing. It's like, everything needs to make sense. It's like, I've done so much therapy and been in different places, and it's like, if it doesn't make sense to a man, if he can't look at something and see, how's that going to help me? He will have so much ego and, but, well, I'm not doing it then. Or he'll base it off money. And like, I can't see value in that, because we don't look at ourselves as valuable, right? We look at things that are external as valuable.
Yeah.
That's why people don't go to chiros and physios and get fucking therapy, because we're like, why would I pay $160 for that? And it's so weird when you say that. And it's like, I just bought 2 shirts the other day.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, that cost you $200.
Yeah. We had 4 pints at the pub.
Yeah. And then, fuck, we're going to but to go back to where we are. It's like thoughts, feelings, and then understanding behavior. So that's like, men will think, right, and this is where people get stuck. It's like trying to navigate my thoughts. And it's like, you have logical thoughts, rational, and emotional thoughts. So sometimes when we're in very heightened states or we're dysregulated and we're trying to make an understanding of something, we base it off an emotional process, not a logical thought. So we're like making sense of all the emotions that we're feeling. And the emotions that are sitting there often are driven from triggers, which is from conditioning. And that's how men are like trying to make sense of how things work. And then it isn't until they understand. And this is what it was like for me, because I was like, it's fucking just driving me crazy, bro. Like, I don't understand this. And then I didn't realize like a part of what was driving my thought process, which was emotionally driven, was from something that had happened to me. And then I then thought that how I was communicating or something that I was doing, I value that based off right or wrong. And then the reaction from the other person, and would all be internalized. A lot of men internalize everything as their fault. They won't initially, but afterwards they will. It'll be like, no, fuck you, it's your fucking fault. And then they'll sit with that. And then that'll always more than likely come back on themselves. So it's like, firstly, they need that principle, right? Understanding like the difference between logical thought, rational and emotional, so that they can start to discern what is actually real, sit in the middle somewhere. So it's like a base level understanding. And then it's like, where am I at emotionally? And because our landscape of emotions is very fucking small, we don't know how to explain what's going on for us. So that's why men will struggle in therapy. And like, how you going? Yeah, fucking missus pissing me off. That's all they understand. You work with so many men and that's their language. It's like, they're not going to sit there and say, I had this conversation. I really felt my rejection wound coming up when she said it and spoken to this, when she had her friend come over. I realized later that I was navigating this. It's like, that's just not what fucking happens. Like, we're not at that growth of men yet.
Yeah.
And we're getting there, but it's like, what does it take to get there, to start getting man to expand on his emotions? I was reading this book 2 nights ago and I was talking about this and I was speaking to Wa. There's something.
What was the book?
It was about BPD for men. It's like borderline personality for men.
Yeah.
So the book is explaining around like why men are struggling to be diagnosed with the correct mental health conditions. And it's because they're basing everything based off conversation with the psychiatrist, right? Based off what they can tell them, as opposed to really understanding what they think and feel, and then giving that context to someone to sort of make an agreement with what they think is their professional.
Yeah, which is a lot of grey area in that, isn't there? You know,
it is.
Yeah.
And there's another rabbit hole, you know. I was firstly diagnosed with bipolar 2 when I was a lot younger, and I was like, fuck that, I don't have this. So it just doesn't make sense. Again, the logical part. You Google something and you're like, yeah, that's not me. Then later on down the track, I was still struggling. And then eventually, anyway, we come back to that. But I was diagnosed with male borderline personality disorder. Same thing at the start, didn't make sense. Until I became curious. Started looking really, really fucking deep at how I was navigating conflict and stuff. Because it's very hard to see where you're struggling with mental health when you're thriving. Then you get into a relationship and it'll fucking show you everything. But we know that so well. If you're sitting there going to the pub every weekend, picking up chicks and life's fucking great, well, you're not going to get triggered when you're fucking living like a solo king. And it's like, how do you think so many men struggle in relationships? Because when they're not in relationships, what are they doing? Out with the fucking boys, life's fucking good, no fucking problems, don't need to fucking have any commitments to fucking anyone. It's all me and I'll make good money. And then as soon as they want something genuinely, like, oh, I'm interested in that woman, they'll fuck it up, self-sabotage it, or find a way to fucking ruin it.
Yeah.
It's 9 times out of 10. Like, you look at every person we work with sucks at relationships. Men didn't really get a good guideline for, especially now. And it's like, it's so weird. You talk to blokes of my father's generation, they're like, mate, fucking trying to give you advice. It's like, bro, life has changed so much since then. It's like women are so more fucking evolved than men in the current state of the community, and men are just trying to catch up. And yeah, that's another rabbit hole you can go down.
It's huge, bro. I'm just sitting with a big smile on my face, bro, because everything we're talking about, mate, you know, you can relate to, bro. I guess, you know, a big part of the role I like to play on this podcast is to digest things and give whoever's listening this, right, and the message that we're trying to give is some tools.
Yeah.
Mate, you're a man of many fucking tools through life experiences and also the work that you're doing now, you know. It's just like, what topic do we want to pick about? Pick on. But, you know, we started off with community, that's stage 1. You know, I think that's huge, man. If anyone's navigating themselves or their identity or trying to, you know, find a new way of life and self-help, I think community is huge, bro.
Yep.
You know, and fuck, mate, it's all leaning into it, isn't it? You know, if we're trying to really digest what like dissect what's actually happening, you know. I mean, from community, like, I guess where do you is it sitting Yeah, man. I don't know.
Give it the simplest form, right?
Yeah.
The hardest thing that any man will do is put himself first. Right? Men are, we say, a lot of women will say this, but men won't, right? It's like men are selfish. Yeah, but they're not when it has to do with something for them. They feel so much guilt around picking themselves, doing themselves, letting their friends down, letting their work down, letting fucking every person, because we've been programmed for so long to live inside, survive and thrive off paying the bills, giving the people the money, supporting your friends, doing all this. So when the fucking mirror has to be turned at you, it's like, fuck, that is so uncomfortable. Like, I don't feel worthy or deserving of that. So the hardest thing a man firstly will do is put himself first, right? We always talk about that with the list and stuff we do.
So, and sorry to interrupt there, brother. So, like, what does a healthy masculine man look like when he's putting himself first? Is he?
Well, he usually isn't.
No, he's not. So, so to just paint a picture, what does it look like? So, for a man to go out and say, no, this weekend I'm going to go away camping with the boys and go and do a retreat of some sort. I mean, initially, especially if you've got children, initially a man's going to go, fuck, no, I've got to be here with the missus. I've got to do work around the house. I don't know, man, like work or...
I would say that the first part's always lonely, so don't have expectations for it to look great. You're going to be fucking lonely. You're going to feel hurt and upset because you're fucking killing a part of your life. And you have to kill and eliminate a part of your life, as harsh as that sounds, and be like, are you ready to let go? Because most men won't.
Yeah.
They say they will, but they'll start for a little bit, too uncomfortable, fuck that, going back. That's why he's hanging out with the boys, getting the piss, getting the bags, whatever's he. Because I know that's familiar. Change is fucking hard, especially change that will last. So when a man is looking to change and, firstly stepping into a community, and doesn't matter what that looks like, because it's like, again, you can go back to that little boy in high school. He's trying to find his fucking place again. It's no different to here. That's 20 years later. It's like, who should I go with? What should it look like? What should it feel like? But it's like, the most important thing I can do and say for a man is like, be curious, man. Because when I started, none of this shit was around. I would go to all these weird spiritual events and do all these stuff. I knew they weren't for me, but I was like, what can they show me that I can't myself?
Yeah.
You have to be willing and open to try things. Right? I like that. I didn't like that. Those people weren't for me. It's like, nothing has to make so much meaning all the time. People make so much meaning. They're like, fucking so black and white men are. It's like, fuck that. Went to do a breath work one time. That was shit. So, well, how many did you try? There's like 40 communities doing it that are all doing different things. Don't have a biased view and then be so scared to try again. Or like you tell a friend and he gives you an opinion and you're like, fuck, I won't do it again. Because look at all the judgment that's coming.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be curious enough. I wouldn't have found a man if I wasn't curious. Because I was fucking earning for fucking answers for me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted change. It wasn't about anyone else anymore because I was ready to put myself first. I didn't want to suffer and keep struggling and feeling the way I did and have that same story. And my brother always fucking goes on about this until you're sick of your own bullshit, you're not going to change. And it's unfortunate for men at the moment. Like, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So you're fucked.
So that thirst and that hunger, I mean, for you, when you started leaning into some of these spiritual things or men's groups, whatever you might have been going into, once you start, I mean, you get a little bit of thirst and more hunger, don't you, when you start actually going, fuck, this is good. I'm stoked, like, especially when you start feeling those benefits. So how did that look like for you, bro? Like, I mean, at first it's hard, but then when you start, I guess, finding that confidence and leaning into these new ways, these new communities and stuff, like there now becomes a bit of an addiction to keep wanting to grow.
Yeah, I would say when I knew I was ready, it was like, there's always, and it's weird me saying this about myself because I say this to all the men that come into our spaces. It's like, there's always going to be a perception, but for me, it was like, there's a lens of who I was, right? And it's like, fuck, how do I be vulnerable when that's who I was? And it's like, they don't give a fuck. They don't know that. You're a random person in this room, but for me, I'm sitting there with that thought process like, oh, I don't want them to think this about me because then what would that make me feel like? What would that make me mean? And until I got to the point where I was like fucking just starting to give some of what was in here a voice and be really honest and truthful with it. It starts, it's trickle until you start feeling safer. But once that shit started coming out, I was like, oh, fuck. I've been holding on to that for so fucking long. And it wasn't about who was in the room. It was about feeling safe and not judged and feeling seen, having what I was experiencing validated and not feeling judged or weak or fucking anything. And that's when I was like, hey, there is fucking something happening in the community, and this is what is supposed to be supportive for mental health. Because it's like, even in therapy, you don't do that because you're still like, fuck, who's this fucking random person? Like, I'm not offloading this fucking massive story of fucking all my life of fucking all that shit. Like, I don't trust her.
Yeah.
We have this perception of anything that we'll say is going to go to the police. And it doesn't help in therapy, you know. I'm a counsellor now, and it's like therapeutic practice is like, hey, is it, you know, if you say anything that's going to endanger anyone, or if I think so, I'll tell the police. All right, let's start. And it's just like, okay, well, fuck this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no limits. So yeah, that's what I love about men's work in the spaces, because like there's nothing really that's off limits, you know what I mean? And if we don't create spaces like that, then how are people actually going to get the help? Because they're always going to tell a part of the story. And the part of the story that's missing is a part of the story that's the pain. And that pain isn't being processed. We were talking about that before with the PTSD and the analogy. And it's no different to someone's deep, painful emotional experiences. If you only touch on the surface of what you really felt, you will only process a part of what you want. You won't actually process what needs to, so that you can learn and grow.
Yeah.
Your capacity doesn't expand. It just stays like this. Oh.
I just on that note, like when you're going in there, and because you feel like you're the only person in the room, you know, like everyone's judging me, you know, what do I look like? I'm scared to talk, you know, and you've got this fucking firecracker going off inside of you, just wanting to scream or fucking, you know, let go. And even though there might be about 20 guys in the room, you still feel like I'm the only motherfucker here that's got shit, you know? And
isn't that fucking weird, bro? Like that analogy?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're talking about it because we're talking about our experiences. Yeah. And it's like, you're sitting there, and every bloke is literally the same.
Yeah. And as soon as someone says something quite vulnerably and open up, like if you're that first person, you know, like, because when you've done them before, you can go, nah, fuck, I'll own up to this and I'll go first. And, you know, you might just release something out, and then all of a sudden there's a line to get up to actually, you know.
Like, fuck, I've got so much shit I want to get off my chest now, because I haven't even spoke about this shit my whole life.
Yeah. And I also noticed that when you hear someone else going through some shit, it also, like, there's a lot of therapy in that as well. Just going, fuck, man. You know, you can actually feel yourself breathing. You're like, fuck, bro, I get you. Even just what we're talking about now, man, it's like, fuck, you know, you're not the only one fucking walking around in a dark room banging your head up against the wall, man, you know?
Yeah, bro. And I think, you know, that part we're talking and speaking into community, it sits in two spaces. It's like a space to do the work, but it's also like men, fucking so many men, man, are lonely.
Mm.
They feel alone. A lot of people have friends, but that doesn't mean they feel like they're fucking fulfilled. Especially want to change, because your friends will be your friends when it suits, right? If you're living and you're all fucking friends for a reason, you all do the same shit every weekend, and so all of a sudden you want to change, well then now you're the odd one out. It's like, now where do I fit? I love these people. I've known these people my whole fucking life, but now I don't want to live like that anymore. I want to change my direction. And people get torn, right? So many men will go back because of that. So it's like, what is actually available in the community for men, so that I can start hanging out? And to be honest, we're lucky. We've got a pretty good group of people, but we weren't like that before, right?
Mm.
We had to be vulnerable and come to each other. We searched stuff, and now it's like, hey, we're going to go for a walk on the beach. It's no, that shit didn't used to happen. Like, let's fucking go to the pub. It's 11. Right? I don't know what do you do on a Saturday? So I lived our whole life getting on the piss. You know, and fuck, it's another story about how I learned I was an alcoholic and fucking had problems, and fuck, you know. Actually, I might say that because this is important for people to hear. It's like, I used to justify to myself so often, and it was because of how I was raised and how heavily alcohol was used in my family. Then growing up in Rockingham, everyone's just a fucking alcoholic. Like, everyone that did any sort of trade would drink a block after work. And it was just so normalized. And I went into mining, and every cunt was drinking 10, 15 cans a night. And it's like the Aussie culture, and it's just like, oh, that's not a problem. Then, like, once I started navigating my shit and speaking to people and really zooming out and not living in those areas, and I was like, fuck you. You're justified an alcoholic, man. Like, you drink every day now to cope. Because you learn, like, yeah, hard day at work, better have a beer. Missus give me the shits, better have a beer. Fuck, life's a bit fucking tough. Want to catch up for a beer? Psh. Even the first things you start to talk about as men, it's like, hey man, I'm going through a hard time. Come down the pub, we'll have a chat.
Mm.
worst thing fucking that we could do. You remember I was talking about that 2-year period? I thought I was fucking living and loving life. And I was fucking using booze to just fucking melt how I actually felt until you pulled that away and realized, fuck, I fucking need a beer.
Well, like it's a quick fix. Even now, man, you know, like, I mean, I gave up alcohol for like close to a year, and I used alcohol, man. That was my medicine, bro, to get through all the shit I've gone through in life, you know. And again, I didn't really quite know that I was doing it, you know. It was a way of life. The same with cocaine. It's a glorified drug. Fuck yeah, I'm the man. I've got a fucking bag of coke, you know. Like, it's funny how like that's the way you sort of see it. But even, you know, like so now I dabble back in drinking again, and I'm sort of this.
So you're going to say cocaine. So I've been off-used, I've dabbling back in the coke.
Oh, it's still doing coke. It's okay. But not ice. I don't do ice, but, you know, don't do crack, man.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah. That's a gutter drug, brother, but cocaine's different. Yeah. But fucking, yeah, it's a quick fix, bro. You know, that's what I'm going to. So, like, if you have a pint of beer, and look, I sit I sit on both sides with this, man. Like, I'm sort of a guy that does actually enjoy a beer in the sun with family, friends, whatever it is, and sort of, you know, wind down and things like that. But I know when I did give up alcohol, man, I was angry at it. I was sort of like, fuck, I've lost so many years of my life. Fucking a lot of shit I can't even fucking remember, man. You know, these good times that I talk about, like I can't even fucking remember them, you know. And the way it suppressed emotions, and I never felt, man. Like when I gave up alcohol, I was like, what are these things coming up? I'm fucking crying, man. You know, like, so like these emotions. And so I was sort of angry at the way that, yeah, man, I never got to felt. I've lost so much through alcohol and things like that. But the point I'm trying to say is, based on what you said before, you know, like alcohol is one of those things that is a quick fix. You know, you're going to drink a couple of pints and that tension comes off, or that anxiety goes away, or that problem that you've been thinking about dilutes, you know, and
gives our nervous system a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
For a portion
and you know what, in some fairness, bro, like I look back at my life and I go, fuck, I don't know how it'd be without alcohol. You know, there were a few times there where it just fucking helped, man, you know. And so I guess, you know, what is it? Like what's the alternative, bro?
Yeah, fuck. Can we do 8 episodes? We need about a few different things.
Yeah, I've got a weekend, by the way, man. We're just.
I know for me personally, and I won't say this as a blanket thing. Like alcohol, in my opinion, isn't a good thing for any human being. And the reason why I would specifically say that about men is because so many men have issues. And when we don't navigate our issues, what happens when we drink? They get glorified. I can tell you 9 times out of 10, even the times all my assault charges, all my criminal history, all the stuff I nearly went to jail for, all alcohol related. All my fucking issues that I've ever had with any partner, any relational partner, alcohol. And it's not sometimes when I'm on alcohol, it'll be 3 or 4 days later from the effects of the lack of sleep and the fucking stuff like that. And, you know, when I'm grumpy at my fucking kids. Same thing, that's why I'm trying to change. You know, I'm drunk since the start of this year. Even found myself having a few beers over the Chrissy break. And I was just like, I had non-alcoholics, but I switched to a few standards. And I was just like, man, I just know myself so well with my own current situation. It's just like, if I don't get a good sleep, if I don't get this, or I don't do that, my moods are impacted. And if my moods are impacted, the people I love are impacted. So it's kind of like, you can't just say to every man, like, if you don't have a missus or kids, like, choose your choice of alcohol. Because I think that there is a period of time where people need to explore what things do. Because again, it's like that fucking bubble wrap parenting. We don't want to bubble wrap men in the community and say, hey, you shouldn't drink. Because it's like, well, if you don't drink, you won't fuck up. And if you don't fuck up, you don't learn. I'm now preventing your period of time of learning. You need to have mistakes. What's important is after you've made those mistakes and you choose change, it's like, well, where do I get it? Here's your pathway. Whereas most of us didn't have that. That's the key part where we're trying to create change in the community. But again, alcohol is abused, right? It's gateway to everything. There's the cocaine gateway, the meth gateway, every gateway. It's like, I personally, for me, I choose to change my relationship with alcohol because it's non-serving. And I fucking love drinking piss. Like, I love it so much, man. Like, I could just sit at the pub and smash 3 or 4 pints. But I also know, like, I have self-control, but I just know, like, I've got to value, like, is that small period of time feeling okay got to outweigh all the things that it impacts in your life.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm at that point where I'm ready to say I'm not ever drinking again. What I'm choosing to do is more switching to, I like to have a beer when there's really good fights on. So I'm going to have non-alcoholics.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, but it's my mate's birthday, this, that, and that, because you'll never fucking stop it. So what's important to you? What's your reasons why you're doing what you're doing and create change? If you're happy being a piss streak cunt and fucking not that great of a parent and partner and person, that's all good and that's where you live and no one gives a fuck. Like, all happiness too, but 9 times out of 10, you'll be at one of our workshops.
And the other thing is, you don't know until you give it a go, bro. Like
Trial and error, man.
Just like what I said before, I never knew what it was like without alcohol. Like the point I'd like to try and get across is just give it a go. Like challenge yourself. I think 1 month, we all can do 1 month. I think do 3 months and challenge yourself. I'm
glad you're fucking saying this, man, because this is a fucking good point. The whole fucking 75 hard fat. And this is why it's fucked if there's no support system. What I see with the people that quit drinking without support, we're basically saying like this, without them knowing, hey, you've just navigated and coped your whole life the way you did without knowing that you used that to cope. Now I want you to stop. What are you going to do when you stop and all this shit goes on? Because you don't understand. You're also going through withdrawals. You've got a lot of shit that you've been suppressing starting to float up. There's no way, because you haven't learned to regulate your nervous system, it's going to be peaking through your roof. Your capacity isn't there to support your family. So it's like, is that actually a healthy thing to do? Because it could have more negative effects. And you look at the guys that do 75 hard. In that 75 hard process, it doesn't say how to regulate your emotions when you're fucking fucked because you're now training and doing everything. Yes, the exertion of exercise, everything's supporting, but I've never heard someone that hasn't done 75 hard and then go on a fucking bender nearly afterwards because they're fucking held off for so long. Yeah. I've never heard of a person go 75 hard. You did it? Yeah, no one does, bro. They don't go through 75 hard and think, you know what, I'm going to live like this. They think, fuck that was fucked. Eating like that's fucked. I'm not fucking training 600 times a day. Like, it's like... Yeah. It's great, but it talks about discipline, but it doesn't, the part that they miss, just like everything in this fucking community, it's like, how do you navigate what's going to come up? It's like, here's how you get a good mindset. But it's like, okay, your mindset doesn't teach you how to process emotions, how to understand what you're experiencing, and then how to also regulate. Like that isn't in the fucking hashtag on day 3, check in with your emotions.
Yeah. And you only really see, like on socials, you only see all the positives, like, oh, I've lost this much weight, or I'm fucking going for laps around the block at fucking 12 o'clock at night or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, bro. Like, cause then that's what I was talking about before when I gave up alcohol, man. I was like, I can remember driving the car and a fucking song would come on, that reminded me of my mum. And I'd fucking start crying. And I'm like, I still remember it, man. I pulled over and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like this, and I rang my sister. And she said, it's cool. It's a thing called an emotion, fucking sit there and cry, and then it's a long story, but then you don't know what to do with yourself, man. Where's this crying coming from?
Yeah, man. And that's where there's just a lack of support. Like even now, like I've pretty much cut off from 90% of the fuck shit in my life and the vaping, right? I was always making an excuse like, but look how far I've come, and puffing and hugging on the vape, and even at my own workshops, I'd duck out the back with the boys and vape, and I was like, realizing I was sitting in my own story. I was like, you're fucking validating and making it okay, but you're using the vape to cope. Yeah, you're using it for fun and fucking whatever. There's no good story. And then started this year, I was like, I was talking about our training before. I was like, fuck, this is the year for me, bro. If I want to be in the community, living in integrity, like I can't be hanging off a fucking vape and, vaping around my daughter. Like that's not who I am. You don't get to choose like parts of what you want to do to be the man you are. It's like be that man or don't.
Yeah.
Because you're not living in integrity. So it's just like an axe for me.
So I just cut it straight off?
I did, but I've had so many bad experiences coming off of it. Just like the alcohol where I'd be fucking angry. I didn't do it well, and sure, it's my partners and stuff, like they'll tell you, like it just wasn't prepared because you're just loading nicotine in and then like, fuck it, I'm just going to go cold turkey. Then you suffer for fucking 2 weeks after that. So what I did is I tape it off and then I got the patches and got the gum and stuff. And like today, it's whatever it is into the new year, and like I don't need the patches or anything. Like I'll have some gum every now and then. But
Because it then just becomes, you're just out training a habit, aren't you?
Well, it is. It's like you're just starting to look at how you were using it and why, but then starting to go to your toolbox again. It's just like, okay, well, this is starting to make me feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
I can see my capacity is getting short. My temper at work or how I'm speaking. It's like the things that we always talk about, and I'm very conscious of this. It's like, okay, what does Alan need right now? Okay, you're getting flustered. You need your own space. Okay, don't answer your phone. Get off all of this stuff. Go sit there. Go relax for a bit. Have some you time. Go for a walk. Clear your head. That it's not about trying to suppress that feeling. It is about processing that feeling, understanding what I need. I think that's something that's really hard for men to get the gist of, especially very early days in the work. They actually don't know what they need.
Yeah.
They're just using all these fucking modalities and things, and they don't know what for.
So I like that, man. Sitting still, a few deep breaths, and just saying, what does Al need? What does Dave need in this moment right now?
That's the key to all of them, man. And so if you, simple things like relationship conflicts, fucking pissed off at your mate, pissed off at your partner, pissed off at yourself, if you truly sit there and you fucking check what you're doing just for a moment, like, what am I feeling, right? What am I experiencing? And then move out of trying to be like, I can't put a name on it. It's like, okay, then, well, what do I need? Like, if I was to feel okay right now, what do I need? And usually you'll move into the depths. It's like, fuck, I just feel really undervalued right now. I feel like I'm working really hard. And often it's like, we'll look at someone else to give us that. It's like, well, how can you make yourself feel valued? Okay, make some space and time for yourself. This ain't for you, because you know that's what you need right now. And you can't expect to get, because that's a problem that men have. It's like, I have the need, the unmet need, and I don't know how to give it to myself because I'm not sure what that is. So why didn't you give it to me? And now I'm projecting that as opposed to learning how to give it to myself.
Yeah.
That takes practice. It's like getting clear, understanding what it is, and then being able to give that to yourself. And they can be such small, subtle things, but some people do it automatically without knowing. But it's usually in times of discomfort, it is understanding what you need and then giving language to it and then practicing giving it to yourself so that you're like, you know what, I'm safe and I'm okay. And now I've just done something for myself. Okay, validate that. I'm proud and I'm fucking all the things, right? Sometimes you'll do it and then feel guilty.
Yeah.
That's another space men will sit in. It's like, oh, I know what I need, I'll do it, but I'm not fucking feeling good about doing it. So it's like, be conscious of that.
Yeah. A lot of self-worth comes into it, eh? You know, like, because when you're loving yourself, bro, it's quite easy to do all that. But when you're not, you know, like, to give you an example, bro, like, even some of my hardest times, man, all I hear is my higher self or whatever is just saying to me, all I need you to do is just get up in the morning, have 20 minutes of a breath work or a meditation, and then just write down 3 things that you're grateful for the day and one thing that you want to achieve for the day. And like, I have all this resistance towards, nah, fuck that, I'm not getting up, I can't do it, you know. But as soon as I start doing it, just such a simple little process like that in the mornings, that self-love, that self-worth comes up, man. And I don't know, and it just seems like life just starts flowing a little bit better, man. I find just having those morning structures, man, are like crucial to my self-growth, man. Like, and if I'm not doing them, I literally can have a whole different path.
I'm glad you said that. I want to use something as a reference, a child and a man. It's like, look at the way a child behaves when a child is young, right? You got kids. When the child is out of its routine, how does a child behave? How is the child emotionally? It stays up a few late nights, doesn't do this in the morning, doesn't have a shower, missed school, did this, did that, long day out at the park. How does a child navigate life versus when the child goes to bed on time? Because when the child is in routine, the child feels safe. Everything's making sense. Everything's got a plan. I know where I'm going to be throughout the day. That feels comfortable and okay for me.
Yeah.
And then when we do that as a man, right, why do you think so many men thrive with routine? And a good way to look at a man that hasn't got routine is like, okay, things have been going pretty hard in life. You just lost your job or your partner breaks up to you. What happens? Fuck, this is unsafe. This is unfamiliar. And what happens then? Everything in your external world becomes unsafe and your life becomes chaotic. And you don't know how to cope in a chaotic environment because where I was before felt safe and comfortable for me. It's that same analogy that we look at for a man who has a thriving and positive morning routine, meaning whether you're doing fitness, breathwork, or whatever, we know that it's validating something, a part of us, because we know we're doing something morally and valuably good for us, right? We can see an outcome based off how we feel, not something I do. As some people struggle with work, especially jobs they hate. Oh, you went to work and you got paid really well. Yeah, but I feel shit. So when you do something for yourself, especially physical exercise or whatever, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm the man. Like, I feel fucking good. Or you did that meditation, or you did that fucking whatever it is that a person has, but it's so crucial that
even just getting up half an hour early in the morning to just give you that bit of,
like you said, man, like I'm on my new program now and I'm usually in routine pretty well, but I get slack. When I get slack, my life looks slack.
Yeah. What does your morning routine look like, brother?
The moment now, bro, so obviously I have my daughter with me, so I get up, she's asleep, I'll get up at 4. I'll either walk or go to the gym in the morning and get my whole morning routine done. So every morning I get up, I'll make my bed. That's where my first part starts. Get up, feel sleepy, turn around, make the bed. I'll either go straight for my walk or I'll go straight into the gym session. I have my cold shower and I'll journal every morning. I'm on a different protocol at the moment because I'm working with Darcy, but usually it would be an expansion of my thoughts and whatever I'm thinking and feeling, and then what I want out of my day. That's something I'm grateful for. And then I go to work. I get my daughter up, blah, 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 blah. But it's a pretty strict routine, man. You know, it's like having a child. It's like you got to get up and make yourself a priority. And sometimes I could sit in that space of, oh, fuck, it's too hard. But it's like, get up earlier then.
Yeah.
Because I know that I can't operate and be a great father if I haven't had my space in the morning. I need time to wake up. And if I wake up 3 days in a row where I wake up late and don't do my shit and my daughter wants fucking all of me, it fucking pisses me off. So I'm like, I can't fucking breathe. My eyes just woke up, my nervous system, I feel dysregulated. And that whole fucking thing will roll through my day. Yeah. And it'll roll through my weekend and it'll roll through the next week until I fucking put some sort of a boundary in place and say, hey, I'm going to fucking get up. This is what I need.
Yep. And as simple as that, man, like just getting up, getting out of bed, that's already releasing natural endorphins and dopamine of like fucking achieving something. Something as small as just getting out of bed and make your bed. That might be the start of the morning. You know, like, fuck, man, like when I'm at the top of my game, and I've noticed that even in previous podcasts, you know, I'd always sit here and preach like, all you have to do is just get up, put your feet on the floor, or if it's the gym, just walk through the front doors. It's easy. Just walk through the front doors, you know. And going through it recently with myself, like, you know, I've fucking challenged myself, and I'm like, sometimes it's just not that fucking easy, bro. Like, you might have, I have all these access to all these different beautiful men and communities, and sometimes when you're just navigating shit, bro, you can't, like you said, it just seems like your whole exterior world is distorted, you know, like in trying to navigate. So anyway, I had one of these moments, man, and I've started up this new gym because, like, me with doing weights, I've always done boxing, you know, and it's like because it's physical and I love doing it, but with weights for some reason, my brain just doesn't want to fucking connect there, man. I get bored. I make up all these excuses, you know, to push weights and stuff like that. But it's been like this year, I'm like, well, even late last year, I was like, nah, I want you to do it. I look at Wah, bro, with the stuff he's doing, and I just see his dedication towards it, man. And you know, and other good mates like Steve Sharp, you know, like his dedication to weights and his structure. It's something that I want to try and lean into. Anyway, I just had one of those moments the other day, man, and I've gone, fuck it, man, I'm just going to go to the gym. This is it, the new year, going to get into a routine doing weights. And everything was coming up in me, man, just saying, like, fuck that, you don't like it, don't go there, you're going to look like a dick, you don't even know what you're doing. And I even got to the car park, man, and I was ready to just fucking drive back off again, like, what are you doing? And I just keep saying to myself, man, nah, just walk through the fucking doors, bro. Like, you got no idea, just walk through the doors. And literally, man, walked through the doors, just started throwing a few weights around there. I was like there almost an hour and a half, man, fucking enjoying myself. And it just, yeah, man, just fully enjoyed it. Walked out feeling alive. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is, man, sometimes when you're just navigating those hard times, man, like they seem like such a fucking huge obstacle to get through, man, you know?
I'm glad you talked about not knowing what you're doing, right, and still going in there, because I think that's such a fucking... There's two parts that men struggle with, and I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say I lived a lot of my life like this, but it's no different to what we're doing with our mental health and what you just said in the gym. I don't know what it is with every fucking bloke, including all the men in this room, who think that we can figure anything out. We can be good at anything. You just have to figure it out. So people go to the gym their whole life and they'll never get a personal trainer. And they're like, nah, I know what I'm doing. It's like, how? What makes you feel like you've got enough knowledge to know what you're doing? Same with why people don't get therapy or fucking anything or any mental health. The first thing that comes in is, what am I if I can't do it myself? Like the gym, it's like, I've got a coach now, right? I've been training for fucking 15 years. On and off steroids, doing all sorts of shit. And then I realized I had a back injury. And I was like, you know why? Because you've been fucking in your ego, man. And you think you fucking know everything. Like, I wouldn't expect people to come to me and say, be open for support if I'm not in every other area of life. That's why I have chiropractors, physios, and I have a coach now, because I'm like, I value where I want to go. And I actually don't know what I'm doing because I injured myself. So it's like, are we able to be vulnerable or let go of our ego and say, I need support in something that I'm doing? That goes for everything. I don't know why every man thinks like, oh, I got to learn how to. No one gets fucking taught a lot, right? That's your dad was fucking, Mick the Tool Man. Like, you'd be very unlucky to know everything. But every bloke's like expected to know how to use drills, construction, carpentry. Like, I'm a pretty fucking handy man, but my dad showed me and my brother sucks.
Yeah.
But it's like, as a man, you put value on yourself of being able to do, right? And it's so weird that we look at practical things as the example. It's like, it doesn't matter what value we bring in at every other aspect. It's like, if you can't hang the picture frame, change the tire, if you don't know what to do at the gym, if you can't be good at your job, it's just like, then what am I? Because we have value of worth based off what we can do.
Yeah.
And so we don't ask questions. We struggle and we'll do it for long periods of time.
We were talking about like your first step moving forward, I guess. I just think get out of your own fucking way. Like, actually own the fact that we got no fucking idea. Even when we've got an idea, I'm pretty handy with the tools as well, but there's a limited amount of fucking knowledge and people that know more than what I do, like, so you can sit here and go, yeah, I'm pretty handy. I can build a table or fucking put a door up or paint a wall. There's still more to learn. But I think as soon as you start telling yourself, I've got no fucking idea, because really we've got no fucking idea what we're doing. And I think as soon as you start, and that's not putting yourself down, it's more just getting out of your own way and allowing, being okay to fuck up, being okay to make the wrong move.
I'm fucking glad that we're talking about this, right? Because obviously Amenda's changed their branding, right? And our slogan and what we're trying to push is like, I am strong when I ask for help. And it is exactly what we're talking about right now. It's the framework of masculinity within the community. And it's like, what does being strong mean? So like, our vision now is changing the framework of what strength actually means. It's like, hey, I'm actually empowering myself by asking someone to give me a hand with something that I'm not capable of doing myself. So it's like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Or for you, hey man, I'm going to the gym and I really don't know what I'm doing. I know you're doing fucking good. Can you give me a hand? And instead of suffering or not doing, because men will do that. They'll fucking navigate towards any shortcut they can to get the outcome. And if they fail, they won't admit it, and they'll just go back to boxing. Yeah, boxing. Nah, just really into boxing. And really, you weren't able to just say, hey, can someone give us a hand?
Yeah. And, and if you're around the right community, like, there's nothing better as well when your bro's putting up his hand going, man, I fucking suck at this. I'm struggling here. There's something rewarding about going, bro, I got you, man. I'll show you how to throw a few combos, or fucking I'll teach you how to lift some weights, or build a fucking table, or use a drill, man, and rather than sort of trying to teach someone that sitting there going, no, I know how to do this, is a big difference there.
Yeah, fucking weird is, right? We've got 3 people in here, right? And I was speaking to a group of friends about this the other day, and work college, because I thought this concept was so fucking baffling. Like, you can know someone for your whole fucking life and never actually know what they do or what they've been through and how they might actually be able to help you, because we never even are curious enough to say, hey, I wonder, doesn't old mate do that? Like, hasn't he got experience in that? You'll sit there trying to work it out. Like, we've got fucking, even in my circle of friends, we've got so many people that own businesses and strengths and weaknesses, so many things. And I'm like, fuck, we've never all sat down at the table and be like, hey, that cunt's starting a new business. Like, should we give him a hand? Like, he's just, I'll go work it out by myself. You got 9 business owners here that could help you set up study everything, and they've got information and learnings from fuck-ups from doing the same thing, not asking and seeking support. There's so many ways in which you can have a group of friends and not look at, like, how can that person help me?
Yeah. Power in numbers, brother.
Yeah, we always look at, like, what is my value in their life?
Yeah.
What can I give to them? What can I change to them? Why do they like me? What can I do to make them like me?
Yeah.
So if I wonder what it is that they've got that can support me.
Yeah, for sure, bro. I guess is that what you're? Can we talk about it, brother? I feel like for those listening, I know a lot of people and a lot of these, like our community. I mean, you guys are huge, bro, doing great stuff across Australia, New Zealand. You doing it anywhere else? I guess is predominantly
Just Australia, New Zealand.
Yeah, doing great stuff in the men's space, man. And so, talk to us about your journey with that, bro. From where did you even start with it, man? I mean, I met you through your first event you put on, and
yeah, so I can't remember the year. It's 2022. Again, so I was on that path of really trying to find myself, and then I'd been seeing fucking Amend on Instagram, but I knew it was East Coast for ages, and I was just like, fuck, like, look at all those powerful men, like, really feeling all their emotions. Like, why can't I have that? Like, I was like the little boy in me, I was like craving that. And then they did that sponsorship with G-Dup, and G-Dup came and they did an Australian tour, and I went there, and that was sort of like my first stepping stone into the work. I did their program, and then I just started exploring more and more of what was in the community, got into more programs and mentorships and experiences, and then sort of decided to start my own thing, which you came to. And I really started to have a passion for it, because not only was I able to help others, but it was just like, for once, I can be myself in that space, like myself, completely open and honest about me, my story, and my feelings, and how I support people. Everything is so genuine and enriched in what we're trying to give to each other in there. We're not having these like fucking surface level conversations out on the street. Like, this is as real as it gets, and it's such a gift from what you do in those rooms, that you A, give to someone else, and B, what you receive as a person holding that space. And wherever we are now, 3 years later, obviously we expand, and the men came over to Perth, and Liam and I have been operating as Perth for the last 12 months. And last year was like our biggest year. We really wanted to fucking get our work out there, and it just evolves so fast. And again, what we're talking about with things, and we had a few setbacks with how things were playing out, how we would set up the systems and structures, and we had a bit of a pullback after our last workshop, sort of reevaluated everything as a bigger business and looked at long-term vision. It's like, what is that for us and for Amend? And before we go into the detail of what we're doing, it's sort of like my vision and what I see, and I know what we will create as a team. It's like being the biggest service provider for men in Australia as an end-to-end service. What I seen through my experience of last year was like, okay, there's the therapy, there's the workshops, there's bits and bobs of everything everywhere. But it's like, what is the man who actually, because for me personally speaking, like, I'm operating this and also seeking therapy outside of it. And I did therapy for 13 weeks last year. And I was like, what was inside the therapeutic space? A lot of us are trained to do it at a level where we can support people. And I was like, why don't we have a space where there is somewhere every time in the year, like a gym membership nearly, it's like that people, if they're struggling, it's like dip back in, jump in the community, get the support you need, go into whatever space. Because it's like, we're talking about the workshops before. A lot of feedback that we got was like, oh, I felt really good during the workshop and for a bit after, and then I fell off the wagon. And I've always had the Amend Online Brotherhood, but it was still sitting in a space of development and working out how we were going to hold the capacity and what was getting talked about and how we're supporting the community. And it's like, now that that's fully established, I think there's like 70 men in there, and it's just the space, like what we're and the team that's actually in the Brotherhood have built is just so beautiful, man. And it's like men have a space to go every single day. There's tasks every week for personal and self-development. There's also a space to be heard and have some brothers there to support you. And this is what we're talking about with community. It's like, that's no better place to start if you're a man seeking it. It's like getting the Brotherhood. Because there's so many men that I know that I've personally worked with from Perth that are now in the Brotherhood, and they're holding space for their bros in there, and they're talking to their bros, and they're now talking off the experience because they've been through the Amen roadmap. They've been at the retreats and the programs and everything, and now they stay inside the brotherhood as a support space.
Yeah.
And so the vision of being end to end is sort of like, where does a man go? Because this is, I'm always like expansive on things like this, and I get real curious, and I always have people reaching out to me, hey bro, and it usually starts with a problem. But people always start with the problem. Hey man, this is going on, or this is the issue. And it's like, they've got the courage and the vulnerability to reach out to me because they know what I do. It's like, where should that person go? Like, as my responsibility as someone who's trained in trauma and counseling and all the fucking things, what's my obligation to that person?
Rather than wait to the next event.
Yeah, it's like two things. I'm mindful of my own capacity, and I'm in a space where I'm not getting paid to do what I do, but also have a liability for someone who cares about men's well-being. I'm not just going to say, hey, because you're not paying me, I'm not going to support you. And unfortunately, that's what the system looks like. So it's like, Lars' concept of this $14 a week online program, it's like, hey bro, if you're genuinely struggling and you need support, join. We also had a space where it was like, a lot of people just want to talk about their problems, but they actually don't want to do anything about them. So I used to spend a lot of time burning my capacity, holding space for people. And I'd say, here's what you need to do, bro. I promise you, look, there's fucking hundreds of testimonies. People are changing their life. It's like, here's all the evidence you need. And then they just want to keep talking about it. It's like, well, then your problem's not that big because you don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, they feel more comfortable sitting there and being the victim of their own fucking reality. It's like, well, there's fucking 3 things you can do right now that I guarantee you from my heart will change your life, and they don't choose either of them.
Yeah. So what is this? So 40. I didn't know about this, bro. So talk to me about this online program. Is it happening now? Like you've
just because we've sort of been doing this revamp, we've been holding off on advertising because what is happening is we begin real big influxes of people. So we wanted to make sure everything was set up and structured so we could hold all of that space, because we're already sitting at very high numbers, and it's like more so to do with training our people, having systems for when we get to each number, what do they do, and then how do we flow them through the journey. A lot of us are still working full time, so Maya was having to hold the capacity of all of it all at once. So as I was saying when I came in, we're relaunching the website on the 15th of January, and then probably the late end of Jan, closer to Feb, we'll start to see everything that we're doing. But
it's actually operating at the moment.
It is thriving with men from all over Australia. It's fucking cool though, right? You see all the other head facilitators and all the people they work with, and we've got guys in Adelaide and Queensland and Brisbane and Tassie, and they're all in this one hub, man. And we have the Zooms on the Wednesdays, and there's the Monday check-ins, the Friday check-ins, and then there's the weekly comms and the tasks on Tuesday. So it's 52 weekly tasks now, which are all, they're not going to be to the extent of what you're going to get in a 12-week program, but there's an actionable and tangible task that you can do that's going to improve your life whilst having space held for you. And there's so much fucking value in that. So should have had like a code or something for the podcast, Dave.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Yeah. Well, it just goes to show the value of Amend as a whole, bro. Like, I mean, you don't have to promote too much to have the people follow you guys, man. You guys do lead by example. I know a lot of you personally, and mate, anyone that I even talk to, because I have people coming up to me all the time, like, where do I start my journey? It's always Amend. Well, I'll go, when's your next event, Al?
See, that was the issue, right? It was waiting 3 months for that person. And that's where we sort of went to now that the Brotherhood's fully operational and we've got capacity for it to grow. It's like 365 days a year, men have support now. They have a hub where they can lean into the community. Like I was replying to a few bros this morning, and it's like guys leaning in by video, like, hey man, I navigated this with my partner this morning, I feel this and that. Who can hold some space for me? Or they've got a question because they're starting to practice asking for what they need, right? And you'll get everyone in the community responding and support. And so imagine not having that.
Yeah.
Imagine being the guy that's sitting in his fucking room, hanging off a vape, drinking and hungover, and he's fucking no idea what he's experiencing, but he's feeling so much shit. It's like, now there's such a beautiful supportive space for you all year round. All you got to do is sign up, lean the fuck in, and show up to the calls.
Sure. And I love the fact, let's just say 90% of all those men that you're training to now put their hand up and talk, hold space, or talk up and there. But that just the ripple effect of this is going to change Australia very, very quickly.
That's the plan, bro.
Yeah.
It is support training. And one thing I've learned in my experience of business is if you don't have systems and structures and you don't have roadmaps for people for self-development, and it's no different to any workplace, people will get resentment, people will lack training, people will end up picking up more than the other person. So it's like set up systems, support people, train them, and then supervise them, and then let them be the next part of the community. And that's the whole point of like being mindful of how much you advertise. It's like you advertise and blow it quick. You have all the people come in and your systems fail. Yeah. People leave and their experience wasn't as good as it could have been. Yeah. So it's like, how do you nurture that experience for people? Because you don't want to send people with a bad taste. It's like, do what's needed and required now, take a little bit of time, and then flourish and grow at a much bigger volume. Yeah.
And I think also just in growing in general, man, like, I mean, we keep talking about navigating, transformation of life and things. Sometimes we do have the expectation to grow big, quick, or to have this and done. Where, a key thing for me was when I realized micro changes, man.
They're the ones that have longevity.
All the little things, man. That, don't forget, don't forget of all these little steps you've taken, man. You might take this massive step backwards where you feel like you've fucked everything up, but we sometimes as men lose focus of what we've actually achieved, man, along the way.
And it's so fucking funny you say this, man, because the analogy for a lot of men, whether it's the job, your podcast or whatever, we get so fixated on shiny ball, right? The shiny ball is like this. If I can achieve that, then I am more valuable, more worthy, more doing, because that is where I need to be, right? And then when we don't get there, we fast forward as fast as we fucking can, missing all the fucking key things that we should see along the way. We get there and then we fucking fuck something up, right? And then we go back fucking 300 kilometers back in the other direction. And we're just like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. Or sometimes we get to that ball and realize the ball's just gone another fucking 2K further. We're never really ever there. And I like what you said, it's about slowing down and just fucking enjoying that journey between there and the ball, that's what you want to call it.
If you look at like the analogy of a business as a person, it's like you're setting up the systems and structures, and for what that looks like for a man is when you're learning something, allowing time to embody it and practice it, instead of being like, fuck yeah, I could be the fucking whatever up here, and then you just soar over to there, and then you didn't it's just skills and learning all the time, but no embodiment. And I've had to sit in a space myself because I went through a 3-year period of consuming a lot of information, being in a lot of experiences, also holding space for a lot of people. And I was just like, fuck, I'm still sitting in my own patterns and my own fucking story. Like, now I have to be curious as to what do I need and what's going on for me? Why am I still stuck in this space? What is it that I need to do to implement changes? And often that's by starting to slow down firstly, slow your whole life right down and be like, okay, now build on the foundations again, get good at those.
Yeah. So, with the amend, and you hear this a lot, and even people have mentioned on the podcast, amend comes up a lot in this podcast, which is fucking awesome, And so those who, amend can be a scary place to step into, bro. There's a lot of ex-crims, tattooed, big motherfuckers. You see a lot of screaming. You see a lot of releasing of anger and guilt and shame. You talk about all these things, bro. And it can look like a scary place for someone to sort of step into. So what I want to do, and like I say, man, I've done I've done a lot of your workshops, man. It's been some of by far the best growing experiences I've had on my personal journey. And so let's talk about that though, bro, like to sort of just, because a lot of this podcast is for me to sort of break down those walls, to have a better look in, to therefore step into some of these spaces, to make it easier to navigate through these spaces. So on the scary part, like, I mean, where do we start with this, man? What do the spaces look like, man? I mean, I saw the video of your last retreat. What can some expect without giving away too much? Because I know it's an experience as well.
This is what I would say firstly for people that are listening, is that what people know about Amend, and by people love Amend, being people that have experienced what we do, and there's 3 people in this room that have. It's like what we hear and see and look at and view from the lens of an outsider looking in, it's more posted in a way of gaining attention. It's like you're seeing 60 seconds of an 8-hour experience, maybe 9 hours, depending on the day. It's like, you also don't see the parts where there's so much love and compassion and support that's being held for human beings, especially from someone like myself. You know, you get to see what it looks like when I'm there, but they also don't get to see like how safe I am as a human being for that person, how people are able to open up to, and I'm able to help support them through so much through the energy that I bring into those rooms.
Yeah.
I would say everything can be looked at from a lens of judgment, but there's a reason why people are coming to us. And I believe that what we're doing different. And if you don't have the people that have been and seen the worst, then how are they going to have the capacity to hold the people that need it?
Yeah.
That's the whole intention behind having experienced, trained, qualified people who have got a lot of life experience, because it's like, how can you have empathy and compassion for a person who's talking into something, right? And it's the same context with therapeutic process. If they look at a person, right, they know if they look at me like, oh, he's a bad cunt, he's got it, they're not going to feel ashamed to speak to me about something that they've done that's shit. And if they can allow me to hear them in a safe and loving way, then they're going to feel at ease. Oh, I'm safe now. What I have to bring in here. And I think that's a superpower. It's like, you're not getting that in other spaces. It's like, people know when they come into their rooms that real shit's going to happen. It's going to be fucking uncomfortable. So it's like, you can do what you do in life, right, and take shortcuts about, oh, I went to cold nips for the last 10 fucking months. And it's like, oh, that's beautiful, bro. Like, that's amazing that you've made some beautiful life choices. But you can get stuck in this spiritual vortex of fucking bullshitting yourself. It's like, where are you going to go actually to navigate the shit that you're not navigating? People can have a mask on just as easy. It's a spiritual mask. It's like, you're doing all the things, but you're not doing any of the things. And what I mean by that is, like, on the outsider's lens, it's like, this person's gone to the gym, showing up, fucking journaling, going to all these events, really empowering, sharing all the fucking Instagram posts. But what they're not doing is the fucking work that they're avoiding. And they know where they can get it, and they're not going in there, oh, nah, guys are scary, or they're fucking, that's not really for me. I was like, well, go out in the woods and fucking do some smoke screens and fucking dancing. I was like, if you're not willing to go into a space and unpack the real shit, then you're never going to evolve as a human being. It's not to say that you won't grow, that your life won't look happier. But we know when you're talking about men that have not navigated childhood trauma and really deep and painful, whether they look and sound like they're deep and painful, or they're just experiences that you're not conscious of yet that have impacted and affected your life. You don't have a safe space for that to be held and processed, then you're never going to evolve. You're never going to change.
Is there, because I understand what you're saying, because I'm one of those people that fucking relate to what you guys do, but I'll also, there is a demographic of men out there that, fuck, I don't know. Is it for everyone? You know, and vice versa. Like this whole going out in the forest and fucking doing lane hunts. Yeah. So
there's value in every community.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting and what I'm trying to expand on is what a men does and why we're different to them. And it's not to look at it for a lens of judgment, because it's about choice of what you need, right? But it's often what you crave the most, you'll avoid the most, because you know that's where you're going to have the most discomfort. And that's often what happens in our workshops. And that's why there's the screaming and the anger and all the things, because it's like no one's actually seeing what's happening before or after. They're just seeing the, oh, wow, fuck, that looks fucking emotionally intense. They're not getting an understanding. And I think, you know, for us with advertising and marketing, we're starting to shift that for 2025. Start bringing in more of the people who are speaking and talking and what that sounds like, as opposed to what the experience looks like for a man.
Yeah.
So that they can now connect with who you know.
What's the main thing that comes up, bro? What's one of the big hot topics among all men? Anger. Maybe? Relationships?
I would say
abandonment, maybe?
If we move past the context of problems and look at what the biggest realizations are, is what we spoke about before. It's like when everyone learns to have a voice for themselves and they look across the room and they're not the only one who's thinking and experiencing the same thing, that is the biggest and most powerful realization that you'll have in that room. And that can happen anywhere in sharing circles. But for that exact question, it's like that's the first part.
Yeah.
And why does it work well with the men? because we move past the surface level, like, oh, I'm struggling with my missus and this and that. It's okay, let's expand on why. What's behind all that? What's underneath all that? And they don't get to just tell a level or a version of it. It's like, you'll be held in a space where it's like, hey, this is what we're doing. We'll lead by example by doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Not a fucking pre-rehearsing. It's like, hey, this is what's really heavy and present for me. And now I want to lead by example and show you what this has the power to do.
Yeah. And I see that, bro, when you hold the space, man, like for you, especially with, what is it? Like doing the guilt and shame exercises, you know, things that, you know, when you lead example, and I can remember a couple of stories that you've shared with the boys, man, and at the time sort of looking back going, fuck, you know, but again, just leading by example. And then that just opens up this void, like this space of everyone now feeling comfortable to come in and share it, you know.
So even in the marketing, right, like we had a few things that were in workshops that we were personally speaking about. I remember Watt asking me, like, hey, bro, are you okay if I post this? I said, well, if I'm not okay with you posting it, then how is anyone going to be okay with me not being able to tell my story? Like they just see all parts of us. They're fucking the good, bad, and the ugly. Is what's the truth is what matters, because that's where men lie with the problem. It's like constantly sitting in a space of, I'll tell a version of my truth, but not the truth.
Yeah,
it's the same concept when you look at the shame and the guilt circle. There's like, wow, this is really uncomfortable. I'm not going to say the thing. I'm going to give you a version of the thing. And it's no different to usually what your problems are. Hey, I'm really struggling with my relationship. Actually, I haven't slept for 3 days and I've been crying in my car by myself, because that's your truth. But no one ever hears that, right? So it's like, okay, well, let's start hearing it. Bro, I'm so sorry. Let's fucking sit in a space. Blah, 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 blah. How do we hold space for that, you know? Because it's like, I'll tell a version just to see what the response is, to see how I will feel. Because firstly, I'm not feeling comfortable enough. The more and the more and the more we practice, so we're always talking about speaking from the heart. That's what speaking from the heart is. It's not vulnerability. It is learning to say the thing, no matter what the outcome is, because you're safe and you're understanding that the person who you're telling it to will love and honor and respect you for who you are, no matter what. And if they don't, you have so much love within yourself that it doesn't matter. If I see or you're judging or how you feel isn't going to impact me, because I'm comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
You're able to have opinions, which is what you're entitled to, but it's not going to affect me. So I've done my work.
Yeah. I like that, bro. It's one thing I'm learning in a new relationship as well, man, is fucking like tell it, like be honest about what it is, you know. I feel like, and also with bros, sometimes like just what you explained then, like we can tell the issue, but what is the real deep down issue, you know, like let it come out.
Sometimes it takes time, right? And often men will have bad experiences when they start, right? Like, and what they don't get to understand is that it's often another person's shit. It's not yours. And why do men shut off and shut down often in relationships or with friends? Whatever the response is, it's just like, it's nearly like you self-sabotage yourself. It's like, I knew that was going to happen. I'm never fucking doing that again. And then it's just like moving further and further away from the heart. And that's because all the work that they need to do isn't done. So they're always worried about what other people think, instead of being like, this is really heavy on my heart and I need someone to hold space for this. And like, we're talking to someone who's advanced into the work, you know, that's where I'm at. And I'm so fucking grateful that I get that, because it's like, hey, this is what I need to offload, and I know who I need to call to speak to someone about this. I won't go do it to my mate who's fucking, you know, and that's what I used to do. You go to a friend and you're just like, hey man, this is really bombing. Fuck that cunt. That's fucked.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, fucking leave her.
yeah, it's just like, that's not what I needed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, man. But that's exactly right. You're deep down, just like fucking feeling horrible still.
Fuck, we've covered a lot, brother. What's one last topic we can talk about, man? That something that you want to bring up of that probably happens a lot, you know, like you know, relationships coming up heaps, man. I mean, when we're talking about, you know, we've done the work, and I can remember with me, bro, like it's like, fuck, I've done all the work, man. I'm feeling good. I'm okay being myself. I know how to process issues. I go to breath work. I'm doing boxing. I'm fucking working good. Then all of a sudden the universe is going, boom, here's a missus. She just popped into my life, man. And, you know, like next minute, and all respect to, you know, the whole situation, having a relationship. But man, it definitely puts a mirror in front of you and brings stuff up. You know, I guess that's where we start seeing some of our bullshit, some of our dark areas, our shadows. I don't know, man. Like, what's your input on relationships with males? What comes up? I know it's a bit of a soft spot for you too, bro.
I think exactly what you said is 100% accurate, right?
Yeah.
The more we stop focusing on expectation of what a partner should look and sound and feel like, and start getting more conscious on,
it's out. Oh shit! Sorry, brother. We're running out of space on the card. But yeah. Sorry,
bro. Lost girl. We're really escaped the building or something.
Smoke.
I'm trying to think where we were, bro.
Yeah,
talking on. Yeah, so the perception of what partners should look like, you know, we can go into a very big rabbit hole here. Often the first thing that we look at and value is like, how attracted is this person to me being? How willing is she to have sex with me? To validate how I feel as a human being. If she has sex with me and she's comes on to me and makes me feel loved, wanted, and seen, it's like, okay, validated. And we don't have a lot of experience in emotional depth with partners. We have a perception of what they're meant to look like and like our roles within relationships. And I think that when that doesn't go to plan, like how we thought it was, we get frustrated. Then we start to not understand things. And we have such limited support within our systems and fucking communities with asking in-depth questions around anything to do with any emotional intimacy. And that's where men lack and they just give up like, fuck this, next.
Yeah.
And for me and my personal experience, and you know, I'm navigating things with my partner again now. That relationship for me was the biggest shock of my life because I went from having women that wanted me, didn't matter how I behaved, they would always stick around. I would never be able to speak into anything emotional, but I was like, yep, fucking make the money, make them feel good, and all the things, and they'll love me. And then you move into a relationship where someone's more conscious and pulls you up on your shit. It's just like really fucking triggering because it's like no one's ever done that to me my whole life. And first it's like internalize it and you don't understand it, and then you get angry, and then you sit in the space of being sad because it's like, why aren't I enough? What am I not doing that's making me worthy for you to want, love, and see me? And you sit in the space of rejection and abandonment and all those things. And I think, you know, what's probably very common for men is like trying to understand where they sit and what they're basing their value off in the relationship from. And it's like, how and what is her willingness to do for me as opposed to do for her? And that comes in context in two ways, right? Because you have people like me more in the people pleaser side, and then you have more on the avoidance. So if you look on the anxious avoidant spectrum, which is the most common in relationships, we have men that are very emotionally unavailable, but women will love and hang on to them because they're an anxious partner. Or you have the fucking like the twin flame that just fucking butt heads of fucking every area because two very independent people have come together through whatever form of connection that they've bonded over. And then the other where the man's anxious and the woman's avoidant. And that brings out just so much in the dynamic. It's just when the other person, for example, when you look at as a holistic view, when that anxious person starts finally doing the work, then they start pulling up the person that's avoidant on their shit. And this is like very high level stuff, but usually it's like, hey, I've had enough of being trapped like this and starting to do something about it. And then pulling it up, and it's like, that's the conflict part, and disagreements come in, and views of certain things come in, and you're not used to surrendering, or, you know, males are very masculine and dominated in how they want things. Life, the cleanliness of a house, fucking what we should be doing on the weekends. And we move out of a space of like leadership and into dictatorship. And that becomes a problem because we now value the woman less. we looked at her initially as where does she value me and where do I fit in? And now it's about dictatorship and control. And men use money and a lot of other things to keep women where they need them. And it happens unconsciously, right? We think that that's us doing the right thing. And again, we can sit here in this space for a very long time.
Oh, bro, like you summed that up perfectly, man. Like, you know, I guess the other thing, you know, because we can lose ourselves in a relationship, bro, easily. Doesn't matter who you are.
You can also find yourself.
Well, exactly right. If you choose to, yeah. Like if you know, man, I keep coming this back to myself, but this is why I called it fucking real, because I do like using myself as a, you know, to be honest about it, man. And, you know, I always looked at it as an opportunity. Sometimes when I'm butting heads or something's come up and it's frustrating me, well, you know, but I'm always going back to like, fuck, this is an opportunity to actually have a good look at myself. Where is this coming from?
Triggers will be your teachers.
Yeah. Where are these triggers coming from, you know? And a lot of stuff, you know, and it got me back onto the journey of PTSD, man. Like when I'm just like, fuck, you know, I'm suffering with this. And in the relationship, this is it's coming up. It's really poking its fucking head up, you know? Because a lot of the abandonment issues and stuff, well, whatever it may be that starts coming up. But yeah, just going back to the point of like seeing it as an opportunity without it being toxic, obviously. But, you know, always seen it as the opportunity of like, where's this coming from? All right, this is where I need to do the work. Okay. You know, because without it, I was always going to be okay, I guess, because it was always going to be hidden nicely or, you know. But I guess when we talk about earlier before, when you say, you know, putting yourself first, so therefore your partner gets the best version of yourself, your kids get the best version of yourself. I also think there's a part to a relationship or a healthy masculine of like serving your woman as well. So where's that balance of like, you know, because if you get out of the thing of like, you know, she cook and clean and, you know, got to look this way, or sex, how you said, like how she validates me through sex or affection or making me feel like I'm the man. You know, sometimes if you can reverse it around and go, okay, how am I going to serve you to be a good masculine? You know, I want you to be my queen, or, you know, but then there's that other fine line of losing yourself in it as well.
Very, very simple, easy way to answer that without going anywhere. It's like curiosity for a man. Okay, we're arguing. Why? What's her experience? What am I not understanding about her? Instead of focusing so much on your emotional experience, try to understand hers. If you're looking at how you can support your partner, be curious. Men think that they know the answers, just like how they went to the fucking gym. They think they know fucking everything, but they won't ask. How do you like to have sex? How do you like to have your pussy licked? How do you like it when I come home from work? When I speak to this, you know, like you have to be curious. Don't assume you know everything. Just like a man. Man is so disconnected from their own needs. What makes you think you'll know the woman's? Because you don't understand yourself. So how are you going to understand the other person? We think we do, and we base everything in a relationship off that. I'm being a good partner because I fucking put money on it, I pay the bills. It's like, that's fucking your role. That doesn't make you a good partner. Like, each person has equal responsibility. It's like, oh, hey, I paid the rent, so you should love me. And it's so weird that we get so fucking hurt by that, because I've been in that space, but it's like, what are we actually bringing in an emotional capacity to this relationship other than doing what every man always does, and it's acts of service? And you can talk about the love languages and all that shit, but it's more about being really clear with your needs and understanding theirs. Most men don't.
Yeah, and what does that look like then for you, man? Like, is that asking the questions, having those conversations?
Curiosity is questions. It's exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to think about the next thing to say when you're triggered, it's like, listen to what she's saying. It's like all the shit that you can teach about conscious communication and relationships. But for the people that are listening in your first fucking time and you haven't done any work, it's like, stop what you're doing now, whatever that is. Start listening, start being curious. Go online, research some fucking basic questions to ask your partner. Don't go fucking 10 years thinking you know fucking everything because you know her. You don't. Because often, if you haven't asked that question, she hasn't been vulnerable enough to answer it for you. She's obviously, just because she's a woman doesn't make her scared. She could also sit in the same space of discomfort as every man, being scared to actually tell her or tell you what her needs are. And that's where you step into your masculinity, because now you're sitting and holding a space for her. Like, hey, I'm really curious. I want to know and understand more about you. this is what's happening in our conflict. What's that experience like for you? What are some of the things that I'm doing that are really triggering for you? How can I better support or listen to when this happens in conflict?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to let your fucking ego go, be able to surrender and say, hey, I'm okay with what she says. Don't fucking preempt the conversation about, well, fucking that's because it's like sit in the space of just listening and holding what she has to say and validate it. Yeah.
And if you don't like it, it's even more reason to listen to it. You know what I mean?
More often than not, if you don't like it, it's like, why?
Yeah, that's
Curious. Be curious again.
Yeah. Because, look, you can't speak for all relationships, man, but I was just about to say, because 90% of the time she's right. So you can sit there and listen and go, okay, well, because if you are in a good relationship, you are with a woman that actually genuinely loves you. If she's pushing your buttons in a certain area, there's a reason for it, yeah?
Exactly.
They're not doing it to, like a fucking good book, man, that I've read is The Way of a Superior Man.
Mm.
And, he talks a lot about, a woman is there to push your buttons. They're designed to do it because that's your responsibility to strengthen. They want you to be the strongest version of yourself.
Yeah.
And, it's a tough one because there obviously are relationships out there where you do, there's the word antagonize each other and fucking.
Oh, it's such a big book to open. That's why, I mean, if you keep it really simple and practice curiosity and questions, so that will open so many more doors and everything else will naturally navigate itself if you're willing to do the work. Because if you're willing to ask that question, well, then you're willing to make it a level of importance to you to do something about. Or you can fight it like everything. And it's so great that you said, like, more often than not that they're right.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why don't we want them to be right?
Mm.
Because then it determines the value of us as a partner. And we look at us being wrong as not worthy enough of their love.
Mm. Yeah.
And if you sit with that long enough, and it's like, now I've got to be open enough to sit in the space of hearing things that may impact how I feel about myself and knowing that it's coming, like you said, from a loving place. I sat for such a long time in my life and my relationships, like anything negative, critical, or anything about me, and I was just like, fuck you.
Mm. Yeah.
Like, you don't see it from a lens of like, because we don't understand what it's like to be compassionate and speak from a heart. It's like, more women are so much more in tune with their emotions, right? And it's like, we look at them like men. It's like, if they're saying something negative or critical, it's like, well, they mustn't like or love me.
Mm.
And it's so weird that we get in our black and white like that. It's just like, how can they not love you and still have an opinion of something and we don't get pissed off about it? Because that's what's upsetting to us. Because really, the trigger that's deep down is like, my value now in this relationship is less, and now I'm going to have to earn more back because she thinks there's something wrong with me. When really that's just the little boy saying, why don't you love me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the anger, that's the frustration.
Yeah, bro. Well, before we run out of room on the disc there, brother, mate, I just want to I hope you can get on here a few more times this year, bro. There's so many. I mean, maybe even next time we do this, we specifically write down exactly those topics and things.
Yeah, we had a bit of an open slather today. Yeah, it's just good to just communicate,
100%,
get a few things out on the table.
And already, bro. Like I said right at the start, mate, just having your energy on here. I'm excited to release this for being the first podcast for the year, and I think it sort of just sets the tone, bro. We sort of skimmed across a whole lot of different areas there, man. I want to encourage everyone. I'll have the link to Amend and Amend Perth on this podcast because I want to encourage absolutely fucking everyone to get involved with this community. Bro, fucking thanks for being on, my man.
Really appreciate you, bro, and thanks for getting me out of my comfort zone to come back into this space. I've been quite secluse and just staying with my own energy over the last few months. I'm really focused in on Amend, and when we'd seen each other at the gala and a couple of times after that, I thought, fuck, I love this cunt, like he's been my number one supporter for such a long time, and I thought to myself, what can I do to support him? It backs off the conversation we had earlier. And so I'm really hoping that, either you get some more interesting people come onto your podcast that have listened to something today and want to expand on something, or someone that has more knowledge than me to help support some of the questions that may come from this. And I look forward to seeing what comes from the podcast this year. You had a big year last year, so interested to see who comes on this year and what conversations come about.
Yeah, it's exciting, bro. And mate, you've got so much knowledge and experience, and you're inspiring, bro. Yeah, and the community that you guys represent as well. So you know, and I know it's unfortunate we can't unravel everything here because fucking there's so much, bro. And but yeah, man, it's all moving forward, and I think this is set the tone for the year, brother.
Yeah, it's a good one to get off the back of 24, man.
Yeah, fucking oath. All right, we'll leave it there, bro. And thanks, my man.
Love you, bro. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brother.